think I'd like to apologize ahead of time because have you ever seen Bismarck Duplessis tackle someone? Spear tackle. I wanted to do that to Uncle Andre because he literally spoke everything that I was about to do this morning. However, it also encourages me because at the end of the day, it shows you that God is working. You know, there's a reason why we had to do it twice. We spoke this morning as why is the church half empty when, for Bible study? Well, the other half's here now, so now we can do the same lesson. Firstly, my parents say hi. They're safely in Australia. They just came out of church, and as you know, my dad always sending messages, so I'll read those later. But preparing this lesson for the past 2 weeks, it's been pretty difficult to try to always think of something to say that's going to be impactful and something that I can speak from the heart. And for the first time, I've actually now decided to do a lesson on something that I've actually been personally studying for probably about 2 months now. Now, it stemmed from, there's about 20, I think it's roughly about 20 people that meet every, call it second week or third week, where we're discussing the growth of the church and how we can increase the growth of the church, but also how we can try to ingrain a sense of spirituality that is not able to be shaken. So, sort of studying what I've done, basically this is what I've studied. So, what I wanted to study for the past 2 months is basically to think of why it is that the world is the way it is. And why is it that the way that the church is sometimes feeds so heavily off what is in the world. So the reason, or sort of, if I could say, the title of today's lesson is, what is the reason that the church is struggling to stay very committed to God? And it's something that I feel is something that has to be touched on, because I think we often look at the surface reasons as to why the church is not growing. But for me, it does get a lot deeper than that. The reason why I've been thinking about this is that you find that a lot of the churches that were these big organizations that had thousands of people are slowly diminishing. I don't know, we've looked so many times at these churches of 10,000 plus, but for some reason those churches are dwindling. Now, how is it possible that if they are getting the truth, the church will be dwindling? And so I try to wrap my head around it. I know that I spoke with a group that meets on a Sunday evening, and I said that I'm trying to meet with a lot of different people, especially we know that there's a church here in Durbanville that's 2,000 people. I've been trying to get a meeting with the guy that actually started this whole thing, and basically I met with some of the people that work under him, and they say that what they try to do to try to grow the church is to try to get things that draw people in. So let's, for instance, say, well, it will be quite cool if we put a drum kit in, we can tap our feet and we can enjoy the service. Or in this case, paint the church black. Paint the church black, put some lasers in, some smoke machines. It creates a lekker vibe. And it creates this excitement and this thrill that just keeps people there. The thing for me that just boggles my brain is that, okay, we spent a couple of bob on painting the church black. We've painted, I think it's 500,000 they spent on lasers and lighting for this place. And so I asked myself the question, you've invested that money into now trying to create the vibe to bring people to church, but for some reason now it's dwindling. How is it possible? And for me, the only way to justify this is that if you are trying to bring people closer to God with man-made things, expect it to fail. Expect to waste every penny you put into it to go and dwindle into nothing. I find it so fascinating how these things happen. But I think amidst everything, like the Word of God says, it says that there's a plan for absolutely everything. There's a reason why these churches spend so much and then they get what they want for a little bit of time and then it diminishes. There is a plan behind it all, okay? So if I look at it, number one, they create a good vibe to get people there. Then they say, but let's focus on the youth because they're quite easy to get into. All that you do is you create a lekker vibe, put a skate park outside, and you draw people. And that's what they do. So they focus on the youth program. And then they create a great buzz within the church. So let's bring in people from overseas to preach now and then, to say something uplifting, and then so draw people. And then the last thing is to ensure that people are busy. It's another tactic that I've come to learn, is that a lot of churches, they try to keep everybody so busy that they cannot focus on anything else but the Word of God that they are busy with. But what is the result of that? if you keep them so busy that they haven't got time for their family, they eventually reach the point of burnout. So you find yourself so busy with something that you're doing because there's a higher person that's standing there saying, are you busy doing what you need to do, that they just don't want to do it anymore. And so then you find yourself in such a difficult position because you're saying, what are we doing? Is God just not as active in the world as what he was those many years ago, like he was in the Bible? And so you start finding or trying to find the answer. And it's quite scary. Again, the reason why I wanted to understand this more is to try to be almost more effective from what I bring into some meetings when you speak about church growth and so forth. But if you talk of retention, so now you've got 2,000 people that are attending church. You've got them all there. My big question is, let's say 2 years later, what is the retention of those 2,000 people? And this is the mind-blowing thing. In the one church particular that I've been trying to research, is they say that after youth, they've created a fantastic youth program. They're able to get 500 children there to worship God. The retention of it, can you imagine? 20% after the youth program's done. 20% of them will stay and actually stay in the church once they are out of youth. And for me, that is a big worry. I don't know why people aren't worried about that, but how is it possible that we only retain 20% of people in the worship, and yet we're trying to do everything that we can? And for me, it just all goes so much deeper. For those that don't know me that well, you will understand that one of my fascinations in life is business. That is one of the things that I love trying to understand, because exactly like all of people, business is all just a psychological game. That's all it is. You think about everything that happens in business, and some of the things, if you don't study business, you might not know this, but please study it after this. You will hear things in marketing strategies. You'll hear reverse psychology is one of them. You'll hear about divide and rule in a funny way. Once you study it, you understand it. And then number 3, which you hear in advertising schools, you hear about the art of persuasion. And now that is what you and I are getting influenced with every single day. Do you believe that Nike's little tick is just because a guy sat there one day and thought, hey, that's a cool thing? There's a psychological way behind it. Do you think that the apple with a little bite in it was done just because it looked cool? Do you think the way that they design their products is that way because it looks cool? There's reason behind it, and psychological way. And so for me, I also wanted to understand that from that point of view. The reason why I study this so much is because for me, if I look at sales representatives of businesses, they sell the belief or product of their particular business that they work for. For us, we are disciples of God, and it should be our job and our duty that every single day when we wake up, we go out there to show the world and to persuade the world or bring people to God, because that's what we are doing. We are there to represent God, to bring them to church, to make sure that they get to know the God that we serve. So for me, it's so important to understand that if businesses are able to persuade people to buy things that 99% of the time don't work, how are we unable to bring people from the world to a God that we know is alive? And for me, it's just, the more I study that, the more I start seeing that there is so much deeper problems, not only outside the world, but within the church. We've got so many problems that we have to start to try to unpack. Now, there's a gentleman that in preparation and in my studies, I really respect as far as business goes and how it relates to human behavior. There's a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek. Anybody heard of him? Simon Sinek, cynic, there's those two things. Please, I ask you to please reach or look him up. One of the videos on YouTube that I'd like you to look at, Simon Sinek, The Millennials. Who's seen that clip? Anybody seen that clip? Okay. So if you are 34 years old and younger, please put up your hand right now. Please put up your hand. Yeah, Auntie Carol, you look, yeah? If you're 34 years old and younger, you fit into that category. Thank you very much. You fit into the category of millennials. Now for me, if you want to understand why our society is so messed up, look at the 34-year-olds. And younger, sorry, and me, I'm included. There is such issues within that age group, and he explains it so clearly. And I would love for you to please look in it. And the reason why I want you to look at it is because we are here to build the church. We need to understand why people are the way they are and why we cannot get people into the church. So he speaks of something. Grant, can I please ask you to put up that picture? He speaks of something called the golden circle. And I know it sounds very businessy. It comes back to Christianity. He speaks of the golden circle. You ask yourself the why, the how, and the what. So if you have to look at a business or any given organization, the church, we can put in there. People often go out there and sell what they do. So we go out there and Apple will go out there and say, we sell fantastic computers. Or you find Microsoft, we sell fantastic software. We might go out and say, well, we sell fantastic apples or whatever it is that what we sell. So people know what they sell. And they know how they sell it from time to time. Because they say, this is the best chair that you can possibly buy. It carries a good weight and, it's most comfortable. So people know what they do or what they sell and sometimes how they sell it. But the biggest problem behind a lot of businesses is that they do not know why they sell it. Now you could say, yes, we sell it because of the profit. A profit is the result of what you are doing. So let's tie it back. We know what we need to do as a Christian. We sometimes talk about people in that category called Bible bashers. They tell you need to do this, you need to attend church, you need to do so forth. Okay? And then sometimes we know how we do it. So we know how we bring people to Christ because we spend time with each other and motivate each other to come to church. The biggest worry for me, and in my studies through this, is that very few of us know why we are here. Very few of us understand deeply the reason why we serve God so much. I'm going to give an example just to explain it. And maybe I'll ask the youth. Who of you really love going to school every single day for the work? You love it. Please put up your hand with everybody. None of us enjoyed school. I was the last to enjoy school. Huh? You love PE. Fantastic. Okay. But we don't like school. But what do our parents do? For 12 years, they torture us and say, you have to go to school whether you like it or not. And so if you think that is going to motivate somebody to like school, well, you got something wrong. Children don't like school. We don't like school. Anything that's forced upon us, we don't like doing. We know what we need to do. Our parents tell us we need to do, that we need to go to school to learn. We know how to learn. We need to study for 5 hours before an exam, or 5 days before an exam. We know we need to do that. But very seldom do us, being in that position, know exactly why we need to be there. The only time we know why we need to go to school and why we need to study is because at the end of the day, once we are looking for a job and we can't find one, now I realize. And so we built into this society that is so much more inquisitive. You know that the teens and so forth growing up now, sorry to say, are so much smarter than a lot of the teens that were their age many, many years ago. They're developing so much faster. They got access to information immediately. And so they don't say, okay, well, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. They want to know why. And the reason why I say that is because if we feel that we can go out into the world saying that you have to follow God, you have to follow the words of what He says, you have to do this, you have to do that, we're not going to be bringing people into church. We're not going to be able to, because then they're going to simply say, yeah, but you're forcing me to believe in something that I can't see. At the end of the day, if you start telling them why you believe in the God that we serve, you will be able to convert that much more. How many of you have ever sat here and said, I'm sick and tired of this church. I'm not coming back to the church because of people. I'm not coming back to the church because whoever it is that's standing up there teaches and preaches such hogwash. It's out of his own words. Do you know what? If that is your response to difficulties in this world, you do not know why you serve God. If you understand who God is and why you serve Him, things become so much easier. It becomes a non-negotiable that you follow Him. I'm going so far ahead here. Whoa. If you think, going back to the teens, a car. If your car is broken down, you can push it as much as you want. Unless there's ignition, combustion, and all of that stuff from within, That car's not going anywhere. And so there's no point in pushing people in this world to just say, this is what you need to do and what you should not do. We need to show them why we are doing what we're doing as Christians. I truly wish we had hundreds of hours or tens of hours so we could sit and explain this, because there's so many different psychological reasons why God says what he says. I started trying to look at some of the commands. There are reasons, biological and psychological reasons why God has certain commands. And that for me is the why. I now sit with hindsight and I say, that is why I need to follow the command. Not because it's anybody standing up here saying that I need to follow the word of God. I understand biologically and psychologically now why God has put certain commands in place for us to follow. But the thing is, a lot of us don't even want to understand why. We'll come sit here on a Sunday and we'll just watch the preacher and we'll judge the lesson and say, oh, it was horrible today, it was great today. Why do we do that? Do you know why you sit here? Because you're not doing anybody a favor if we're just sitting here just trying to listen and relying on that person to teach us. We need to go find out. There's so many different parts. Okay, I'm not even going to go into that. We need to understand why it is that we do. So I think a lot of the times we get spun into circles where we say, oh, the church is in such a bad shape. Do you know that it's not new? I'm going to ask us all, please, to go to Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11. Thanks, Grant. Sorry, you can take that down. Thank you. Hebrews chapter 5, verses 11 through to 14. And the reason why I want us to go there is because I want you to challenge yourself. Today, I want you to challenge yourself and ask yourself if this is the reason why we struggle with your own spiritual faith and my own walk with Christ. Hebrews chapter 5, verses 11 through to 14 says, we have much to say about this, but it is hard to make it clear to you because you no longer try to understand. In fact, though by the time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God's word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. Anyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is not acquainted with the teachings about righteousness. But the solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. Now, I've got this fantastic piece of machinery, and it's only because my sister's obviously expecting a baby. Otherwise, I would never have one of these. But if we look at Paul, this is what he's saying, without obviously using a bottle. This is quite a cool. Sorry, have you guys ever seen? Oh, it does drip. Okay. Sorry, I thought it was cool this morning. It wasn't dripping. We'll send it back. Paul's sitting there and he's saying to the church, he says, I'm here to give you some good, solid food for you to grow as a Christian. I'm here to tell you just, the exciting parts of Christianity. I want to teach you more. But Paul sits there and he says, how ridiculous is this? That I've still got to teach you the elementary. You need milk. What do you associate this with? A baby. He says you need milk. So he walks around and he says, I need to tell you not to gossip and slander. I need to tell you not to be rude to your brother. I need to tell you you need to attend church. That's what Paul's saying. How many of us are still there? How many of us sit here and we're still at the point where we need milk? You need to be reminded not to gossip and slander. You need to be reminded to attend church. If you understand why you attend church and why we serve God, it becomes an absolute no-brainer. I serve the God that I do because of the love. We need to start understanding the why. He needed to go around and speak to them like babies. Don't fight, don't gossip, don't swear. And this is what he was addressing them about. And it's sad, actually. The reason why I say it's sad is because I can see that sometimes we are exactly like that, where we cannot grow. And this actually just hit me now. I didn't see this until I read it right now. In verse 13, anyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is not acquainted with the teachings about righteousness. So if you are still needing milk, you can't even be acquainted with righteousness. Isn't that quite a deep accusation? That is extremely deep. The big thing as well is that sometimes we look at the preacher or the teacher and we say, man, you're just being insensitive to me and my feelings. My personal opinion, when was feelings a gauge for righteousness? When were your feelings important for your righteousness? When you know why you do what you do for Christ, your feelings don't matter. Because all that you're wanting to do is please God. You're not trying to please yourself. If you had to quickly equate your age, let's take age out of it. If you had to take the time that you were baptized, okay, how many years have you progressed? If maybe you were baptized, I was baptized, 2000? So what is that now? 16 years. Sure, I'm old now, eh? Starting to get a beard. But if I had to equate my spirituality or my spiritual growth with my age, am I still an infant? That's something that only you can answer. Are you deeply searching to know who God is and why we serve Him? Or are we still going, but I didn't go to Bible school. I wasn't able to live in a preacher's home. I wasn't able to sit at church every single Sunday because I had kids that I needed to look after. We need to stop giving excuses and say, why truly deep down am I not growing as a Christian? And it can be a big worry. The beauty of God and His teachings, and this is what Uncle Andre brought up as well this morning, where he says the teachings of God are constant. He says that His laws, and that's something that's why it's beneficial to come to the Bible study, because you hear different perspectives of it. But the Word of God stays constant. The Word of God is here. But this is human error. What do we do when things get tough? When we can't reach that mark, what do? We reduce it. So let's take our education system. So I know my dad, he had a teacher that used to say 60% or 70%. If you do not pass this test, you get whipped. You get hit with 10 lashes or whatever it was. Now, what does school system do? They say if our beautiful children that are ever so bright cannot pass the exams, that's fine, you only need to get 30%. Then you A for away. How ridiculous is that? And how ridiculous for us as Christians to condone that with our children. How can we say, it's fine, little Jared, you get 30%, it's fine. What's going to happen when little precious Jared, that's oh so great, gets into the real world? Unfortunately, he's going to fail. You set your child up for failure. And so my thing to draw it back to God is that God's standard is here. Why do we dare reduce the standard of the church? How dare we reduce the standard of the church when we say, but my feelings are so hurt. This is God's standard. You meet it or you do not. It's simple. Why are there so many fractions in churches? Why are there so many denominations? Why are there so many different beliefs? It's simply because people are willing to reduce the standard of God and teach that. How dare we? If we look at God, what He has created is perfect. We need to uphold to that standard and make sure that we meet it. Again, if we know why we do what we do, everything else becomes a non-negotiable. We understand that the standard is there. And so in order for us to meet that standard, we're going to do everything that we're going to attend as many classes as we possibly can. We're going to ensure that we love each other. I'm sorry, that for me is one of the biggest things. We love each other. We read our Bible. We go and try to understand the Word of God. Something that we don't do. We expect the teacher or the preacher to teach us how to understand the Word of God. And we need to pull up our socks. But this is the other thing. I also want to say that the reason we are the way we are, once again, there are biological and physiological reasons and psychological reasons for why we are the way we are. And so this is by no means a way out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we can explain it. We need to find out how we're going to work around it. Okay. So, if we have to think of somebody's passion, you've got a passion to do something. Many people's passion is business. Many people's passions are sports. I know Jared's fantastic at sports. No, not you, Jonathan. Okay, you academic. Okay, but we've got passions to do certain things. Okay, and the reason why we got passions is either because we're very good at it, and that's normally why a passion comes out. Or we see somebody else and we aspire to be like them, so we make it our passion. And so if we see that you can get a passion for sports, passion for fitness, okay, that I don't understand, but for fitness, passion for making money, and you've got your particular passion. Maybe your passion is your family, okay, which is beautiful. A passion eventually becomes an addiction. And that's where the breaking point comes, where it becomes priority, it becomes the main goal in your life. I want to give some examples of some addictions, and I'm going to go through some obvious ones. Alcohol is an addiction. Okay. Smoking is an addiction. Drugs is an addiction. Social media is an addiction. And we'll touch on that one. Being accepted is an addiction. You want to be accepted by everybody. And having this buzz in a church, it's an addiction. So if I had to explain to you why we have these addictions, I think it might blow your mind a bit. Who here understands what dopamine is? Dopamine. Okay. So, let me give you an example. Imagine a smoker. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm just saying. Imagine a smoker. And I actually tested this week, speaking to a smoker. So they put the cigarette to the mouth and they breathe in. And they're like, oh, yes, feels good. I also was in a meeting and there was a gentleman that says, I need a cigarette. Where's the closest store for a cigarette? He needs that. So he inhales it. As soon as that good stuff, whatever it is, goes into his lungs, he feels on top of the world. That is a hit of dopamine. So it's that feel-good drug that biologically gets injected into you. And so now you're like, feel on top of the world. Same thing goes with social media. Okay? Now, this is something I know for a fact, do not deny it, anybody. We like it when our phone goes ding. And we're like, yes, who wants to talk to me now? There is an addiction to social media as well. Okay, so let me show you the problem with that. So what is the age limit for drinking in South Africa? 18, okay? And there's age limits to, I don't know, let's see what else is here. Drugs, there's no age limit. You should not do that. But there's age limits to certain things. Why do we not have age limits to social media and to cell phones? Because hear me out here quickly. Like I said, alcohol and smoking gives you a hit of dopamine. So does social media. So now it's not saying, Jared, but it's not saying, Jared, no, you're not allowed to drink, so we take that away from Jared. But we say, here's a cell phone. Whoop. You may as well give him an open bottle of whatever it is and just force it down his throat. Because you are enabling him to get the same hits of dopamine all the time. And so it's that feel-good hormone. How does this tie back to the church? It's the same thing when we try to create a hype. Every single time you go to a church and there's a hype, there's a fantastic band, they sing my favorite song and you're swaying and whatever it is. It's dopamine. It's excitement. But what happens the more you get hit with dopamine? For those that don't know, the more you get hit with dopamine, the higher your tolerance becomes. So now, not only one bottle is enough. I need 2 to sustain me. Not only 1 cigarette a day sustains me, I need 4. And so that is why, going right back to the beginning, if you look at this creating a hype in a church, it's not going to work. Because the tolerances always go higher and higher. Eventually, all that you can really do to try to hit them with enough dopamine is say, hey, come this Sunday, we got a free hit of drugs. That'll give you some good dopamine. So where's our world going? Surely there has to be a breaking point and a realization. Okay, I just want to quickly go to 1 Peter. For those who've got their Bibles, 1 Peter, please. 1 Peter chapter 4, and I'm going to be reading from verses 4, and I'll probably break it up slightly. 1 Peter chapter 4 from verses 1. It says, I'll wait a little bit. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 1. And one of the things, just on a side note, while you sit here, I don't want you to look at the addictions that I'm busy talking about now, because they might not be relevant to you. I want you to think about what your addictions are. Don't say that you don't have an addiction. You've got an addiction to something. That's why we're not always at church. That is why we don't, other stuff becomes so difficult to be a priority in my life, because we've got something else that is motivating us and pushing us and giving us those hits. 1 Peter chapter 4 from verses 1, it says, "Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourself with the same attitude, because whoever suffers in the body is done with sin. As a result, they do not live the rest of their earthly lives for evil human desires, but rather the will of God. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, curious and detestable idolatry. They are surprised that you do not join them in their recklessness, wild living, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give an account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached, even to those who are now dead, for they might be judged according to their human standards in regard to the body, but live according to the God in regard to the spirit." So what he's saying is that if we look at the way that the world is going, the world wants us to live a particular way. Us as people that understand who God is and why we serve him, it becomes a non-negotiable that we don't follow the ways of the world. If you're finding it difficult to step away from things of the world, ask yourself the question, do you understand who God is? It's one of the starting points, I'd say. And then they say, but expect that people will turn against you as soon as you turn away from those things. He says, just expect it. Don't go there with disposition, or trying to understand, but why are they so hard up against me? No, God's standard's here. We speak for God's standard. As soon as I speak for God's standard, you know what? If you don't like me, tough. That's the way that it is. Why is it that we give up on that? For me, it's so sad to see that even when we are in leadership, God's standards here, and we just say, it's fine. Their feelings, let's help them. No, what God says is truth. Let's follow that. I want to go further from verse 12, and this is where the exciting bits come. "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come to you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the suffering of Christ, so that you be overjoyed with the glory. When His glory is revealed. If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and God and of God rests on you. If you suffer, it should not be as a murderer or thief or any kind of criminal or even a meddler. However, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name." So if you are facing difficulty because you are trying to uphold to the standards of Christ, don't be ashamed. Stand up tall. Do you know the day for me that I cannot wait for the church, and I know it will come? It's the day that not only leadership stands for the standards of Christ, but every single one of us here uphold to that. We're not going to buckle to the world where we say it's fine if our dear children can't pass maths, we'll drop it to 30%. We're not dropping the standard of God. And for me in this church, that's what we follow. If you want to hear what our ears want to hear, hey, there are other churches for that, but not here. So I go back to it. If we understand why we serve the God that we serve, all of this stuff becomes easy. And the biggest thing is we need to find passion in Christ. Think about it. Going back to the stages. You've got passion for whatever your passion is. With your passion becomes addiction of what it is because you're good at it. And then from addiction, that hit of dopamine comes. So for me, if we understand why we serve the God that we serve, it is inevitable that you become passionate about being a Christian. You become passionate about living for Him. And so then sometimes it becomes an addiction where all that you want to do is serve God. That's what we are designed to do. We need to be serving God with everything. He says meditate on His word day and night, is what the word says. That's kind of addiction, day and night. And as soon as we find pleasure in serving God, I think then we're reaching the right place. Because we're not only just saying to people out there, this is what us Christians do and what us Christians don't do. We are displaying why we do what we do. And for me, I feel, just like in business, that is what sells. Please research it to prove me right or wrong. If we do that, I truly believe that we can get so much more people into this church because they see why we do what we do. So today I just want to ask you to ask yourself, what passion is forcing you to not understand why you are Christian, and what are you being fooled with to follow in this world? Like the verse that Jared read, the heart is the most deceitful thing, the deceitful thing in the human body. If people says, but he's got a good heart, don't be ignorant. We need to understand why we do what we do. Thank you. Let us stand as we sing the closing song.